Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving right into the dark, hidden history behind the organization that controls world football, FIFA. Every 4 years, literally billions of people gather around their screens to watch the World Cup. It's universally seen as this massive celebration of dreams, of passion, and just a pure love of the game. But what actually goes on when the cameras stop rolling? Well, today, we're going to unpack the shocking history of the organization that runs the beautiful game and look at the scandals that very nearly brought the whole thing crashing down. So let's kick things off with a massive question. What if the world's most beloved sport was built on corruption? How does a multi-billion-dollar empire, watched by billions of fans, become completely plagued by systemic, decades-long criminal allegations? It's a really fascinating paradox. We're talking about bribery, money laundering, and scandals worth hundreds of millions of dollars, all operating quietly in the background of this sport we love. It's a crazy contrast, right? On one hand, you've got these beautiful dreams, the glittering trophy, and those roaring crowds that literally bring nations together. But sitting right next to that is a much darker reality, one built on power, greed, and corruption. To really understand how this bizarre dichotomy was allowed to exist for so long, we have to go back to where it all started. Section 1. A Beautiful Game's Dark Secret. Okay, so FIFA's beginnings, they were actually incredibly humble. Founded back in 1904 in Paris, their whole mission was simple. Just unite European football associations. That's it. Few people back then could have ever imagined what it would turn into. By 1930, they introduced the first World Cup, which quickly evolved into the most watched sporting event on Earth. But then we hit 1974. Joan Havelange takes over as president, and FIFA starts gaining some serious, immense power. And with that power came money. Lots and lots of money.
Section 2. Building a Global Empire.
Now, with all that popularity came massive financial potential. Things fundamentally changed by the 1970s. Havelange's vision was, well, incredibly ambitious. Under his leadership, sponsorships and television rights absolutely exploded. Major corporations were just rushing to associate themselves with the World Cup, which totally transformed FIFA. They went from being the small governing body to a highly lucrative global business empire. We are talking about a staggering influx of cash. To put it in perspective, those early millions literally skyrocketed into billions. But here's where things started taking a turn. Critics at the time started noticing that something dangerous was brewing behind the scenes. A culture of deep secrecy was forming. It was becoming a culture where influence and money were starting to matter way more than transparency or, the sport itself.
Section 3. The Multi-Billion-Dollar Era.
So this culture of wealth and secrecy, it absolutely intensified when Sepp Blatter took over as president in 1998, kicking off a highly controversial 17-year run. During his presidency, we see this fascinating and pretty troubling parallel. On one side, global revenues just skyrocketed. The organization expanded its reach across every single continent and achieved unprecedented financial success. But simultaneously, the controversies were mounting. Real questions began to emerge about their voting processes, their financial management, and a highly secretive leadership structure that was almost impossible to challenge. And nowhere was this controversy more obvious than in how they picked World Cup host nations. The stakes here are absolutely monumental. Winning a bid brings incredible prestige, huge tourism, and billions of dollars in infrastructure investment. It can transform a country. But the highly controversial decisions to award the 2018 World Cup to Russia and the 2022 World Cup to Qatar, that truly blew the lid off FIFA's operations. Critics heavily questioned how those votes were won. Investigations launched, brave whistleblowers started speaking out, and allegations of corruption absolutely dominated global headlines. For a lot of fans, public trust in FIFA just collapsed.
Section 4. The FBI takes down FIFA.
All right, fast forward to May 27th, 2015. The world completely shifted for this organization. Picture this: Swiss police carrying out a dramatic early morning raid at a luxury hotel in Zurich. Operating at the request of U.S. authorities, they arrested several senior FIFA officials right then and there. It shocked the global sports world. News channels everywhere covered the story nonstop. For the very first time, nervous sponsors realized the organization was actually vulnerable. This supposedly untouchable empire was suddenly under intense, unavoidable scrutiny. And the charges they brought forward were, frankly, explosive. Investigators alleged that the corruption inside international football wasn't just some recent slip-up. It was alleged to have lasted for decades. We're talking about far-reaching charges here: bribery, fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. The sheer scale of the alleged criminal enterprise operating right beneath the surface of the world's favorite sport left fans completely stunned.
The fallout from this went down like dominoes, and it was staggeringly fast. Step 1, those shock arrests in Zurich on May 27th. The pressure was immediate, which led to Step 2. Just days later, Sepp Blatter resigns after ruling the sport for nearly 2 decades. And finally, Step 3. As the investigations pressed on, numerous high-ranking executives faced severe bans, massive fines, and very serious legal consequences. FIFA's reputation was damaged like never before.
Section 5. Has football actually changed? So, after surviving the most damaging scandal in sports history, where does the organization stand today? Well, the reality's pretty complex. FIFA remains incredibly powerful. They've got billions of viewers, new tournaments, and massive sponsorship deals are continuously being signed. But on the other side of the equation, the fans have fundamentally changed. They remember the past, and they are continuously demanding transparency, accountability, and fairness from the people running their sport. Because at the end of the day, it really comes down to this quote: "Football belongs to the people, not to politicians, not to businessmen, and not to corrupt officials." As we wrap up this explainer, I think it's crucial to remember that despite the immense greed we've seen at the top, the true heart of the game is still with the fans. Kids still dream of lifting that trophy, and the stadiums are still filled with genuine, undeniable passion. But, history is a pretty strict teacher. The story of FIFA isn't just about football. It's a stark lesson on what happens when power gets too great and money becomes too important. So I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought. Has football truly learned from its dark past? Have we conquered this constant struggle between integrity and corruption? Or, with so much money still on the table, is another massive scandal waiting just around the corner? Take a moment to think about that the next time you tune in to watch the beautiful game.